All right, folks, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. We're going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we would open it up for public comment. Anyone who would like to share any comments relative to any topic that's not on the agenda already, please feel free to come up and sit at the table. Share your name. No movement there, so we'll move anyone on the Zoom call who has public comments. Please speak up or raise your hand. Seeing none, we will move on from public comment and move to item number 4, which is...
You got Kylan.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. How do you pronounce it? Kylan Hamilton, would like to say a few words?
Yeah, hi, sorry. So hello, my name is Kylan Hamilton. I'm 13, and my concern is the lack of regard for speed limits in St. Albans. Lately, I have been seeing multiple people speeding and not slowing down when they see a child and or pedestrian. I live on the corner of Oak and LaSalle, where the speed limit is 25. I would imagine that the speeding is an issue on multiple residential streets besides mine. I am wondering if the council would do more to encourage safe driving. It would be safer for families, especially those with children and pets.
Thank you for those comments. We will have a conversation with the police chief. We do have the radar speed readers that tend to help in some cases, but you are correct that speeding is an issue throughout the city in many parts, in many different neighborhoods. So we will have the city manager, if you can give us some contact information tomorrow, that'd be great, and we'll touch base with the police chief.
Okay, thank you.
So you can email, I'll give her your email now.
Sure. d.cloud at St. Albans, STALBANSVT.com.
Oh, she got it. Did you get all that?
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Chip. Anyone else have any comments, public comments? Thank you for sharing. All right, we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is consider adoption of the Declaration of Inclusion. Leah, are you presenting?
Actually, Ryder is, thank you. I'll be taking up the back and Ryder's going to be presenting.
Okay, Ryan, do you want to come on up?
So thank you for having us. I'm vice chair of the committee. As author of this draft, I was asked by Leah Christopher, who's our chair of the Belonging and Equity Inclusion Committee, to present the Declaration of Inclusion. So I'll read the document, then speak a little bit about our committee's work around it in terms of drafting the document. And then I'll ask Al Wakefield, who's on Zoom, to talk a little bit about it as the person who's doing this statewide. And then finally, there will be a few comments from BEI members, and then it will all be ended with Leah Christopher's comment. This is the actual Declaration of Inclusion that we drafted. The City of St. Albans condemns racism and welcomes people of all ages, citizenships, colors, disabilities, gender identities or expressions, national origins, races, religions, including non-religious, sexes, sexual orientation, sizes, and other classifications. We want everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community. As a community, we formally condemn all discrimination in all its forms, commit to fair and equal treatment of everyone in our community, and will strive to ensure all of our actions, policies, and our operating procedures reflect this commitment. We further commit to doing a better job of tackling our own biases, both implicit and explicit, and trying to elevate voices and people who have not traditionally been heard or valued. We recognize that these discussions will be hard and will expose many of our own prejudices. Our goal is to excise these from the city, both as individuals and as a municipality. The City of St. Albans will continue to strive to be a place where individuals can live freely and feel like they have the opportunity to be valued and belong. So the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion has now, as of October 31st, been adopted by 73 municipalities in the state, which means that over 50% of all Vermont residents live in a municipality that has been adopted, that has adopted the declaration. I first met Al Wakefield as the chair of the Vermont Democratic Party's Equity, Diversity, Justice, and Inclusion Committee. He mentioned he was trying to get communities in Northwest Vermont to adopt the declaration. I told him I was vice chair of our own BEI committee and that I could bring it to our committee. We did, and after some personalizing of the document, we arrived at the document you now have before you. When drafting the document, I used the template provided by the Declaration of Inclusion Committee, Alan and Bob Harnish, and then I added issues that the BEI committee had brought up in the last several months. You'll see a push for specificity that is purposeful and is a response to the sense that generality tends to not address the issues and is a path often taken and is one of least resistance. You will also see a mention of implicit bias. When the BEI committee was formed, there were city councilors who took issue with the idea of implicit bias, and we felt as a committee that the denial of implicit bias pointed to a lack of understanding in the way our own experiences painted the way we view and interact with the world. So our hopes as a committee is that city leaders will not only recognize those biases, but address them, and not just in the systems, but in each of you. Implicit bias is real, and tackling it is fundamental to producing better outcomes in government, especially at the municipal level. So in speaking at our BEI meetings about this, we came to the conclusion that this is a great step. The concern was addressed that perhaps it wouldn't be a measure of accountability. And we felt like as a committee we were in a good place to hold you all accountable as it pertained to being inclusive, and felt that we could help you along in that and give you guidance. So what we're asking for you is to adopt this declaration, to confirm your interest and commitment to making St. Albans City an inclusive place where everyone feels like they belong. And so at this point, I'd love to introduce Al Wakefield, who's the leader of the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion process, or one of the leaders. He can speak more to the general process and ideas behind the Declaration of Inclusion.
I'm here. Can you hear me
Answer any
okay?
questions.
Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yeah. A little bit louder, Al, if you would.
Okay, I'm not sure where the microphone is and all that. Can you hear me now? About as close to the screen as I can possibly get
That's a little better.
without mating with it. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Ryan. I really appreciate the opportunity to get before the city council. I really wanted to be kind of a fly, if you will, in the background and let you guys talk about it, because when local people present, that's so much more effective than somebody as an outsider. I'm not a Vermont outsider. I've been in Vermont 35 years and have owned a business in Rutland itself, and then run and owned an international business as well. So I've been here for 35 years after 15, 20 years of corporate life, senior level. Resident of Vermont down in Mendon, some of you might know, right near Killington. And Bob Harnish is the person that we should give credit for, I think, conceiving the whole concept of Vermont becoming perhaps the #1 state in the country for inclusion. The town of Franklin initially adopted the original declaration, and since then, as Ryan mentioned, we have now actually in 76 towns and about 52% of the population of Vermont, moving towards hopefully 100 towns and whatever percentage that is by May of next year. you may be aware that the governor has acclaimed or proclaimed the second week of May of every year to be Inclusion Week in Vermont. And he signed both the Declaration of Inclusion as well as the proclamation to make that week so. And so since then, we've been in this now about 2 years, I guess. And so the movement has been swift. It has not been without a certain amount of conversation. We regard conversation as good because that means that the select boards, the Board of Aldermen, and the City Council are really giving serious consideration to what the adoption means. And I think Raya really outlined both the premises as well as some of the outcomes that we hope will be achieved through the adoption of this inclusion initiative. And so we're hopeful that you will move ahead, provided that you do adopt. There are resources to help you move this along. There's also money to help you move this along. There are certain kinds of things which you can do which cost absolutely no money at all, just some time, some brain juice, I think, and the cooperation of everybody on the boards and the town management that's committed to making this real. And so I could talk and talk and talk, but I don't want to do that because I know you've got a time schedule and I get kind of boring after about 5 or 6 minutes anyway. So would love to have you think about it and hopefully adopt it. So I'll turn it back over to you guys, and I'm available right here for questions and hopefully answers that make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. I had one question for you. The declaration that I had found earlier on the internet, is that the one that most towns have adopted, or have they all been embellished in some form or fashion?
We have said that there's no such thing as a perfect declaration of inclusion, and that each town should adopt or adapt the declaration according to its own needs, its own environment. As such, we've just asked that the spirit and intent of the original be preserved. So the direct answer to the question is that probably 50–60%, I've not looked at it quite honestly, have adopted the original, but many have moved towards adopting an expanded version, a version that is altered, that is more specific in its need to address whatever local issues and whatever local opportunities, in fact, are available to it. So the one you've got before you is, just as was earlier said, is intended to address your own specific environment, and that's greatly to be desired, I think.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Are there others from the, Leah, did you want to?
Yes. I think several people both on Zoom and perhaps in person.
Okay. So if anyone's on Zoom that would like to comment on this, could you please raise your hand or speak up? How about in the audience? I'm not seeing any on Zoom.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if Raya or somebody could explain what exactly is meant by accountability, because I'm a little confused on that. So does that mean that the city council would make decisions and then the BEI committee would discuss it, or what does that mean exactly?
Right. Go ahead.
I think it was just a comment to say that the BEI committee would help the city and make sure the city was inclusive. That's kind of what the BEI committee is there for.
Okay. Because just when you're suggesting that they examine their implicit biases, I mean, everybody has biases. So I just think it goes across the board, and it should be something that the committee and city council is working on together. It's not just one decision being made by the BEI committee.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a comment as well. Is it helpful for people on Zoom if I just stand up?
I think so, Reese, if you can, the mic's up here if you
The
want.
mic's up here? I'll
Yeah,
come on
if you
up.
can sit up here.
I just want everyone to be able to hear. So I'm really excited about this declaration because I feel like it allows us to have something that's both tangible and aspirational, right? Like these things that are written about inclusion, that we talk about inclusion, are probably not realistically achievable within our lifetimes, right? Like we're human, we have a lot of place to grow, but being able as a city to commit to, hey, we have our intentions in a really good place of wanting this to be a city where everyone feels like they can belong, where they can be affirmed, where they feel valued, where they can participate in civic engagement. Like that's what we all want, and this is a way of writing it down that's more specific. And I know that just as when kind of the BEI committee started, and what you see here is there is a lot of very explicit specificity in there. One, it's not all encompassing, we know that, and two, it's a lot of words in there around culture and size and gender identity or expression, and some people see that and their eyes kind of glaze over of like, oh, that's a lot of words. And I just want to hone in on why I think that's so important. So for example, we might be able to say anyone in the city of St. Albans could run for a city councilor seat, right? We could say all are welcome here. All are welcome to actually try to be on city council. But if we didn't, as a city council, talk about things like gender, or race, or age, we wouldn't be able to look around the city council and recognize that there are folks who are not actually represented by the members of our city council. So we have to talk about those things and acknowledge them, or we can't actually achieve our goals of being an inclusive city. So I wanted to highlight that because I think that can be a sticking point for people, and we're actually in the best room to really actually have a moment and say, for example, is our city represented in terms of various races and genders and ages and sexualities on the people who are making decisions for it? I mean, we're not. That's an objective reality. That's not a moral, issue. That's just an objective reality. And for us to have more inclusive representation, more inclusive operations and ways of being here, we have to talk about those things. We have to acknowledge them, and that helps us move together in a way that aligns, I think, with our intentions. So I really think that this is a great opportunity for us to put that aspiration out there as a commitment that all of us can be a part of. So I really hope that that's something that we can embrace today. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to come up, say a few words?
I guess I'll bring us over. Good evening.
Hello, Leah, how are you?
Nice to see you all again. So, I'm curious, and anybody that knows me knows I live in curiosity a lot. So I'm wondering how many of you believe that a home's structural integrity, good plumbing, and quality electrical wiring are important?
Leah, we
Yep.
agree they're important, but we may not all have it.
I saw you up on the roof this weekend. It's going to be like Vegas. We're not going to talk about it. These foundational aspects are critical to a home. They may not create the excitement that a luxurious coat of paint or a gorgeous wide plank oak floor creates, but foundational aspects of a home are vitally important. Similarly, the Declaration of Inclusion is foundational to our community. Without these elements, we lack the foundational soundness necessary for our community and for our residents to thrive. And a strong foundation requires commitment. A commitment to do the work and a commitment to open communication with one another. It's an opportunity that every day, each of us has an opportunity to be better and to do better. This is the opportunity this declaration represents. So I'm going to ask you one more question. How many, I know that we're fairly landlocked, but how many of you have been to the ocean?
Both sides.
Both sides, all right. So you've seen the tides. Then I leave you with this. Just as a rising tide lifts all the boats, adoption of the Declaration of Inclusion lifts all in our community. Thank you.
Ready for a motion?
Are we gonna have any comments?
Yeah, have any comments? Bob, you-
My only comment is I'm totally in favor of Declaration of Inclusion. In fact, in September of 2021, when we established the BEI committee, we basically did have a Declaration of Inclusion at that point. And I would be in favor of a Declaration of Inclusion again, but I'm not in favor of this particular motion, this particular proposed declaration. You mentioned a state type of Declaration of Inclusion, which I haven't seen, but I believe that the BEI committee has embellished that and put in certain language which I would be opposed to, such as, I do not feel that I want to acknowledge, because of the BEI committee, certain biases and prejudices as an individual. I don't know what the implications for that would be in one business, in professional and personal relationships. So I would be opposed for that reason. And I also don't know what the city's, the implication for the city might be if we adopted something of that nature. And I would almost think that before we did something like this, we would ought to have legal counsel review it. So for that particular reason only, those 2 or 3 particular reasons only, I would be opposed to this declaration in its present form.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Comment?
I'm going to mirror some of that, and I'd like to see some of the other declarations. I'm not too excited about some of the language that I'm seeing in this one. Doing a better job. The 2 wills in here, and shalls, if they're in here. I'm not in favor of saying that there has been a poor job of tackling biases. So, without talking to the BI committee myself, or being in that meeting and just seeing where they came up with some of this language, I'm not in favor of this either. But I'd have to see some additional declarations and have a conversation with some of those committee members before I would be in favor of signing this declaration or voting for this declaration or any other declaration.
Anyone else, comments? Leah, I guess, would the committee be open to the discussion?
Yes.
You mean like a discussion now or a discussion at a future meeting? I'm just curious what you mean by the question.
At one of your meetings or at a different time?
And would there be the availability of us to have some of the other declarations that have been passed by other municipalities?
They're very similar to this.
Well,
Can I ask a good question? What was the vote of the BI committee in adopting this this draft and to recommend to us?
Unanimous.
Yeah, I mean, so that was what I thought, and thank you for that. I support us adopting the language as it was presented by the BEI committee and not sending it back to them. The language that's in here is aspirational. It requires us to strive to do things, not to, it's the level of accountability here is, it's something that we have to hold, it's a standard we have to hold ourselves to. So we're saying that we're going to strive to do a better job of tackling our own biases. I don't know any of us who have done a perfect job of acknowledging, the biases that we all carry with us. And And I think that this language is powerful, but it's aspirational. It doesn't hold us to some new standard. It's us acknowledging and building on the standard that we already were trying to hold ourselves to when we established the BEI committee. And I really don't want to send this back to them.
Well, my problem is we further commit to doing a better job. Well, where's the evidence that we were not doing, that we were doing a poor job? And trying to elevate, I mean, why can't we put and strive to elevate voices? We recognize that these discussions will be hard and will expose many of our own prejudices. How can you say that?
I think you're proving it right now, right?
How so?
Because you're having a difficult time accepting it, and I've heard other people having trouble accepting that there's bias.
I'm saying
Meaning that if you have
I'm
trouble
saying that
accepting
there
something,
may
you're
be,
doing a
but
poor
where's
job.
the evidence to say there are? You may,
I'm saying that if I have biases, it's up to my family and my friends and my business associates to point them out, not respectively the BEI committee.
This doesn't say the BEI committee, sir. This says you. This says you will fix them in yourself. This is putting the onus on you, sir, to fix it in yourself. That's what it's doing. It's just then merely asking every single member here to look inside yourself and come.
but that's not what this says, Ryer. I don't
It is
think.
what it says.
I don't read it that way. I don't read it that way. I read it like somebody saying that we've done a bad job doing something.
Says you would do a better job.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead. And,
From an
raised
from an
for some
outsider's
time.
perspective, like just reading this
I've
stuff.
had my hand raised for some time on Zoom.
sorry, Elena,
Well, I'm just gonna go ahead. I didn't.
So should I just interrupt whenever I want to speak?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I find this incredibly disappointing because I think the entire purpose of the BEI committee was to serve in an advisory role where we would sit down, and because this is something that we are committed to, that we've done the research on, that we have actually read those other statements that you all want to see and have compared them and had conversations about them, that we would be allowed to then bring these topics to the committee, to the city council. And I find that the resistance that we're experiencing right now sounds really I'm sorry. Please don't shake your head at me. I don't know who you are, but I'm just speaking.
Just don't tell me what to do. It's a meeting. It's a public
Okay.
meeting.
Well,
That's
my
one
dad's
at a
not on the
time.
I'm
city
listening.
council,
I
so
can
know
react
don't
any
get to
way
do
I
that.
like. Continue.
So anyway, I think that the defensiveness that we're experiencing is such, it's evidence of exactly what we're talking about. And I find that putting the burden of proof on us that these things are too lofty is actually ignoring the fact that there is no evidence that we have done a good job of tackling bias. So while you might say, I don't think that we need to do a better job, I don't think you have any proof that you have done a good job to begin with. I don't see how any of the categories listed is one can say that a person who identifies that way has absolute safety in this community. We have seen anti-Semitic literature left at people's homes. We have seen all kinds of evidence of people feeling entirely unvalued and invisible. And so I don't think that any of us in the BEI committee identifies as all of these things, but we are speaking on behalf of anybody who is vulnerable in our community and who has been marginalized, and allowing us to check ourselves so that no one in our community is ever left in the dark.
Eliana, thank you. Nan, could you state your name, please? It doesn't show up.
Caitlin Farah. Me?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
To me, like, I understand what you're saying, Elena, but I also feel like there seems to be some kind of like, almost like a power dynamic that's occurring. And it seems like language is very important. Language is very important. And it seems to me like the way that is expressed, saying that the city council assuming that the city council has not done a good job. It doesn't sound like the BEI committee is going to work with the city council. It sounds like the BEI committee is saying, we know more than you, and we're going to tell you what you need to do. That's the impression that it comes across as. It's the language. Language is very important. And if it was written in a way that stressed that you will work together with the city council, that would make a lot more sense to me. But asking them to admit their biases, and that they haven't done a good job just doesn't sit well with me as a member of the community, as you are as well, as we all are. I envision a community that works together, that doesn't have the dynamic of the BEI committee is going to tell the city council what to do. You guys are doing a great job. I think it's important. I think diversity is incredibly important. I grew up in St. Albans. It's changed tremendously. And I think it's wonderful to have that diversity, but the language is important. It's making it seem like you're going to work together with people is very important. And it just feels like it's very blaming people, saying you don't know enough, you're biased, you don't know enough. That's how it comes across. I think that it would come across that way to a lot of people, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask Eliana a question? Or Reese or Ryer? Maybe I misunderstood it. I thought that the BEI committee was going to advise and make recommendations to the council, and then we would discuss these things and make possible changes for resolution. I didn't think that the BEI committee was going to present something to the council and we would be forced to adopt that document. Am I wrong? I mean,
adopt it?
yeah, I mean.
Oh, you are?
I don't think I'm, yeah, but I'm hearing from what I heard from Eliana was that, look, we did a good job, we did this in a committee, now we're bringing it to the council, how come you're not going to approve it? Or why can't we have discussion on it? I thought that's what the BEI committee was all about, was to advise us and bring us recommendations, and then we were supposed to talk about it. Not because a couple of people or others are saying, look, I'm having a problem with some of this, I'd like further explanation, or I'd like further investigation, and then all of a sudden we're against the BEI committee. That's not what it's all about, or else we all wouldn't have voted for it.
You know,
So am I looking outside the box here, or what?
So Tim, what I'm hearing, and it's something that I feel like I've experienced a lot, is it's hard working on a BEI committee and bringing something to city council and watching it be nitpicked in ways that other committees work is not. And I think that while many of us hold professional positions where we do this for a living, like we are local experts on this stuff, to have it questioned in ways that feel like it is undermining the value that we as volunteer citizens who have done this work and brought it to you, that to me feels like what I'm experiencing here is, oh, this is another time where I'm gonna be treated as if what I've done is of lesser value than an equitable committee, and that they are valued for their expertise and what they bring and the decisions they make. And that's challenging. I think for us to have spent a lot of thoughtful volunteer energy as citizens to bring what we thought is the best version of this to you, and to experience what we're experiencing here. I will just say that is very hard. This is one of the first things we are bringing to you as a committee that we feel really good about, that we want St. Albans to shine with. And I can see there are points of it where the language, one or two words might rub you the wrong way. Is the spirit of the declaration what connects with you? Because I don't see other declarations nitpicked word for word in the way that this is.
Reese,
we are not saying this is a legal contract. A declaration is not a legal contract.
We do it all the time though, Reese. The budget committee, when the staff brings the budget committee, we're all over that. When zoning brings us new bylaws, we're all over that. When someone says we gotta put stop signs on the corner of Lake Street and Elm Street, North Elm Street, we're all over that. We do it all the time. That's what we're here for. We make the final decision. The committees advise us and bring things to us, then we as a committee discuss it and we come up with something. All right? It may not satisfy, it may not be suitable for everybody. The spirit of this thing, I love it. But it's, yeah, and I'm just, some of the wording of it I don't like. But that's just me, Reese. That's not the whole council.
Does the handful of words override the spirit of it? Because it sounds to me like it does. And if that does, and you're pushing it back to the committee, how many times are we gonna have to wordsmith this until the spirit that we, as a strong and solid committee, have passionately put forward?
Until we agree on it.
And does the 4 or 5 words,
Until we agree on it.
the 4 or 5 words make it a yes or no? That to me is really, I think, worth questioning
Okay,
for folks who are up there.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, what I want to say is I understand that for some of you up there, the words up there might make you feel uncomfortable. That's how many people in our community feel all the time about being uncomfortable about certain things. You feel uncomfortable with a couple words. I felt uncomfortable when my wife's campaign sign was sprayed with a racial slur last week. I felt uncomfortable about that.
Me
Right?
too.
Yeah, well, but what this is saying is that no one up here felt uncomfortable enough about it to send her a letter, right? No one felt uncomfortable enough to send her a note and say, I'm sorry that happened to you. When I was called the N-word in the park, when my wife was called the N-word out here at Travel Cup in the middle of the day on Main Street, someone yelled the N-word at her from a truck in the middle of the day when she's meeting with Vermont Democratic Party officials, and someone yells the word at her, that makes her feel uncomfortable. But no one sent her a letter. No one said, I'm sorry that happened to you. So while you feel uncomfortable with a couple words, these words that you will feel uncomfortable with are the truth for many people in our community. You might be uncomfortable with expressing the fact that you have biases or prejudices. We all have biases or prejudices. I have biases or prejudices. That's the way the world is. The only thing I can do with those biases and prejudices is examine them, try to fix them in myself, and recognize when they happen. And when they happen, I have to recognize that. And if I don't recognize that, then the issue is that I am doing something that is wrong. And it's completely implicit, it's completely without my ability to change it, but it happens. And so if you feel uncomfortable with saying, I sometimes feel scared when I see a black person on the street, I sometimes lock the door when a black person walks past my car, that's fine. You should feel bad about that, but at the same time, you should be able to examine it in yourself and say to yourself, this was wrong, I need to fix it. How can I fix it? How can I make myself a better person today? That's what the document's asking you to do. It's not saying you guys are doing a bad job. It's just saying you all can do a good job. The whole city can do a better job. Everyone in this world can do a better job with this kind of thing. And that's what the document is simply saying. You can do a better job. I can do a better job. Reese can do a better job. Mia can do a better job. Everyone here can do a better job with these things. That's all it's saying. It's a very, very simple concept. But it's hard to deal with when you haven't dealt with these things day in and day out. Like I have, like Reese has, like Leah has, like people in our community have. And that's all it's saying. That's it.
Thank you, Ryder.
And then we got Preston, then Eliana, then I think Caitlin on Zoom.
Preston, go ahead.
Thank you. Boy, we've heard a lot of pains mentioned here. And just take a moment. Take a moment, because a lot of things have been named. And they've been named because they exist. I serve an institution that every time we gather, we name in confession that we know as an institution that we're broken. We name the fact that we are people are broken. It means that none of us are perfect. It means at the same time, after that confession, we believe in aspiration and assurance that we can be better. That is what we're asking. Yes, our city electors are wonderful people, but they're not perfect. We as a city are wonderful, but we're not perfect. We do things wrong. We make mistakes. We have biases. We're broken. All we're doing is saying we can inspire to better. And to the question of what the role of the BEI is, if we were perfect, we wouldn't need the BEI. We're here not to trap you, not to trap anyone. I would never vote anything that I thought was a trap. We're simply here to help and to move forward. And yes, it's going to make us uncomfortable. If it wasn't going to make us uncomfortable at times, we wouldn't need to be a committee. The purpose. So I thank you for your consideration. I think we should move forward. We're volunteers. We spent a lot of time, heartfelt time on this, very, very just intense time on this. I don't want this to come back to us. We have other things to do, other places to be. So thank you, and just let's move forward with this.
Thank you, Preston. Eliana, were you next? Who's next? Jeff?
Eliana.
Eliana, go ahead.
Muted.
Eliana, you're muted.
So sorry. Um, I want to point out that this lack of clarity, I think, brings up a fundamental issue with the BEI committee and its operation right now. Is we actually have not had a discussion with whomever we need to have that discussion about how we will function and how we will serve this advisory role that we've taken on. And so maybe this is a good, I think, eye-opening experience that will bring attention to that and how we communicate and how these discussions are had. And so that brings me to the second point, which is, I wonder, I heard, I wasn't sure who was speaking, but someone mentioned that there are wills and shalls in this statement, and they're a little bit uneasy about them and that we need to discuss them. And I guess my question is, is that really, how many people are, how many concerned folks from the city council are going to come to this discussion? And if not everyone who takes issue with these wills and shalls is present at that BEI meeting when we have that discussion, well then, will we have another draft that also gets kicked back because of some other change that has come up since? And so my concern is really just about this work being stymied and about it being stalled, not intentionally, but really just sort of by dint of people's resistance and that defensiveness and the white fragility that I think, and other types of fragility, ability and sexuality and shape and nationality, all of the identities wrapped up in this statement. I think the reticence I'm hearing, it can continue to crop up anytime we bring another draft. And that is my hesitation and my concern.
Caitlin?
I'm just going to sort of repeat what I said before, because I think it's extremely important that language really matters. And maybe this is a larger question for some other issue, but I just really don't feel like telling somebody what they think and how that's how the document comes across to me. I wouldn't feel comfortable signing this. I just wouldn't. I mean, I just feel like, I understand that there's all kinds of different implicit biases, there's gender, there's all kinds of different biases, but the language just doesn't seem to me like it's about people working together and coming together. As soon as you just tell someone this is how they are, this is how they feel, without any opportunity for them to say, no, I don't feel this way. That's not fair. That's not working together. And I just don't feel like I don't feel like the wording of the document is helpful, and I think it matters. I think it matters a lot to get it right. And I understand that you guys have worked on it for a long time, and I think that's really great. But sometimes people need to work together to really make things solid and fluid for everybody, so that everybody's on the same page. I think that's important in a community, that everybody feels heard.
Thank you, Caitlin. Al?
Am I on?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, offering, the perspective of now having been in one way or another 76 of these meetings, that I guess I've heard almost every kind of reaction. Most reactions have not been defensive. Most have been for clarification reasons, and once the clarifications have been rendered, the select board or alderman or city council has moved ahead. In only 2 instances have the boards deferred to the public. One was in Plymouth a few nights ago, where the same declaration went to the population. They have about 300 people, so it's not a large town. And I think the vote was something like 250 to 40 or something like that in favor. In another instance, in the town of Chittenden early on, which has even a smaller population, the ratio, I think there were 10 people who said no, and the other 160 or what said yes. So this declaration has been scrutinized by 52% of Vermont's population already, and 52% have said, let's in one way or another, through their town representative, have said, let's go forward with it. Number one. Number two is that the governor's office has scrutinized the language as well. As I said earlier, has moved to proclaim both the Declaration of Inclusion as well as Inclusion Week. Number three is that the Vermont League and Cities and Towns, which you may be a member, has adopted the same language and has adopted the Declaration of Inclusion. In fact, includes this on their website. I might add that this declaration initially was reviewed by their attorneys and found to have no vulnerabilities, on one hand, and on the other hand, to represent the spirit of what everybody in your BEI committee is talking about in terms of inclusion. It is aspirational. It is not designed in any kind of way to accuse anybody of anything. As someone said, we all have personal biases. I certainly have mine, and I've been, as a Black person, having lived in various places around the world, and certainly in Vermont, that's not to the exclusion of discrimination and bias. So this is an attempt. The statement itself is a totally positive statement. It's not intended to accuse. It wants to move every municipality forward to say that this is what we can be if we do the things that are right. There's also another aspect to this declaration, and that is the economic aspect of it. I was welcomed to Vermont by another Black man who had been welcomed to Vermont, who built a world-class restaurant right next door in Rutland, Vermont, and truly built a Michelin-rated restaurant, which those of you know something about food service know that's about the highest rating kind of thing you can get. So he almost had 1 star, which is only 3 stars. Pretty darn good for being in Vermont, being a Black-owned restaurant. He was invited here by 3 business people to open up a restaurant, and he accomplished much more than they ever thought he would accomplish. I was invited by him and several other white business people to come here and bring a business. I did bring a business here, which generated, a couple $1 million for this economy. I'm not alone. There are other people just like me, of disabled, who are military veterans, who are ethnically different than what is increasingly the minority population in this country, etc. I won't dwell on that. But I just urge you to get beyond the picking at every word. Picking is probably a bad description. But I think go beyond that and think about what this conceptually is intended to do. The language of the declaration, as I heard, it really rises above accusations, and it might mention that, yeah, we all have biases. We all do. I admit to mine. And I can tell you about a few of them if you have some more time to listen. So I just urge you to rise above and think beyond. I think that's kind of the function of governmental bodies. At least that's what we hope they will be. And listen to your BEI committee. They spent a lot of time on this. And I guess I'd ask you, so I can only see 6 or 7 people on this call sitting at the desk. I'd ask you if you've taken the time to really read the original document, which is at vtdeclarationofinclusion.org. And it contains other documents, other declarations rather, in there. There are 3 or 4 in there, which we intentionally put in there so that you would read them and be prepared to have the kind of discussion which you're having right now. So I just want to add those few comments. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us.
I have just a second. I have no problem with any of the wording in this. I'm sorry, Bob and Tim. I mean,
You don't have to say you're sorry.
yeah, it's fine. I like it. This came from our experts. There's a lot of stuff here. I have all kinds of biases. I work on them daily. So it is aspirational. I'll agree with Al and Ryer. Ryer, please say sorry to Lauren. I didn't know any of those incidences happened. I know they happened. I just didn't know they happened to her. And of course, your family are more than welcome to my place anytime if you want to chat about it. This is great. This is what we asked them to do. This is why we created that committee. This is what I've been wanting them to do, to come before us with. So I'm totally in favor of this.
Tim, two comments. Mr. Wakefield mentioned other drafts or other documents that have been circulating. We haven't had the opportunity to see those. I don't know how those may have differed from what we have in front of us. Secondly, he urged us to look at the spirit of the document, not the words. Well, in my living, we look at the words very carefully. I think Mr. Hawkins does as well. The words make a significant difference as far as I'm concerned, so that's the way I feel about it.
Any other comments? Leah, you're gonna get the last word.
This is hard. And my catty self, that I don't particularly like, wants to say, welcome to our world. But I'm gonna rise above that. And I'm gonna say, we can do this together. We all have biases, and you know, it's not comfortable. I'm a certified professional coach. I'm your BEI committee's chair, a job I didn't ask for, didn't know I wanted, still not sure I wanted, and here I am. It's hard, it's messy, and it's uncomfortable. And I appreciate, you know, it's difficult to take a hard look at ourselves, at least I find it is, because I don't always like what I see. I disappoint myself. I don't show up as my best self. I think things I shouldn't think. I say things I can't take back. I disappoint myself, and that's the worst kind of disappointment, I think. We're not here to cast stones on any of you. We're not here to cast stones on one another. We're here to say we all have an opportunity and an obligation to do better every day. And it's messy and it's uncomfortable at times. Together, we can't do it singularly. We never have been able to. But together we can. We can encourage one another. We can rally. We can aspire. We can make an accountability that isn't in your face, that isn't throwing grenades, but saying, yeah, you know, I had one of those thoughts too recently and it didn't feel good. And I'm a little embarrassed and I want to do better. How do you do better? Maybe I can learn from you and then I can be better. Words do matter. Caitlin, you're absolutely right. Words do matter. We can also hide behind them. We can also use them as an excuse. And I would venture to say, I'm not sure we can ever craft a document that we're gonna all be comfortable with. And if we do get to that point, it will probably say nothing. Because what we need to say is gonna have some discomfort. Because that's our truth. It's where we are today. What I know is the St. Albans I know today is pretty darn good, but by golly, it better be better tomorrow. And if you don't have that feeling, I wonder why you're sitting in one of those chairs. Because that's the way every leader should feel. That's how every leader should aspire. And I believe in every one of you. I don't agree with all of you. I would never say that. I don't even agree with myself half the time. But we can do better. And you've got a lot of people counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Yeah, that's why you're the chair. So if there's no other comments, thank you, Leah, for that. Appreciate it.
I'd like to move that we adopt the Declaration of Inclusion.
Also, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? One thing,
I think it's a good idea for the city council to make apology to the gentleman's wife. What was said to her on the street.
So I was gonna touch on that after the vote.
Okay.
I don't mean to table it prior, but let's deal with this and then.
Okay. Just thought I'd bring it up before I forgot it.
So no other comments on this, anyone? So we're gonna take a vote, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Marie, you were, aye. The motion passes, and the declaration of inclusion is passed.
No, we don't have to sign it. You don't have to sign
So, Raya, two things. Reese, I do want to agree with Tim that I think we do scrutinize other things. Maybe not always, you may not agree to the level, but I think we've done it on many occasions, and I just want to reinforce that we do it. And so that's one. The other one, Raya, extend my apology, our apology to Lauren. I was not aware of it. I'm not a Facebook person, I don't know what, when those things happen, but I am deeply sorry for the hurt that she may have felt and your family may have felt. So on behalf of the council and the city, please extend our apology, and I will too. I would be glad to reach out to her and have that conversation. So with that, thank you all. Thanks for the discussion. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and you all are welcome at our committee anytime. We would love to have you. We would love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, Al, excuse me, Al, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al. Thank you, Al.
Thank you all for your discussion and for your final decision to be complimented. Thank you for allowing me to sit in.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. So we'll move on to next item. Let's see here. Next item on the agenda is item number 5. Kelly, if you want to join us up front for the discussion of the playground financing?
Want to have Valdemar as well?
No. Valdemar.
Too bad.
Valdemar, you should know me better. You should know me better than that by now.
Very black and white.
Thank you for coming in, both of you.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a potential for financing solution for a new playground at Albans Hill. Everyone has the information in your packet. Kelly, do you want to lead in, please, if you will?
Yeah, so since we've moved to Hardak, quite often people are like, the only thing you need is a playground. You need a playground. Valdemar is the playground guy, as you all know, has put in playgrounds all over Franklin County. And we've been talking for about 1.5 to 2 years about a playground at Hardak. And then last week, Valdemar got in touch with me and said, I do a lot of fundraising in the community for lots of different events, and I've just finished up with Festival of Trees, and I maybe want to take a little break from fundraising, and how about I guarantee the funds for the playground backed by the city for the initial cost, and then he will reimburse that over the next 3 or 4 years? 5. Do you have the picture of the playground? Oh, perfect, okay.
So is this not the city rec doing this?
Well,
Why-
it's a-
Because I'm wondering, why do we have to do this? Why don't you just take it out of the budget?
Well, okay, Tim.
Is this the rec department doing this? I mean, it's our rec department looking to have the city's backing on buying something for the rec department?
The essential partnership at Hardak is, it's a philanthropic / public partnership, where we use the strengths of the public sector along with the fundraising abilities of Hard Act. For example, we don't budget $40,000 a year to run the tow road. They go out and raise $40,000 a year to run the ski hill. When the ski lodge cost $750,000, we didn't pay $750,000. They raised $400,000. We lent them the balance, and they're paying the rest off. So the first time we departed from that was the pool. And the large, look at this master plan, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of things in here that are gonna require large capital bond vote type investments. This is something where we can,
How is this different from us putting something down at Houghton Park, Chad? How is this different from us fixing the tennis courts down at Houghton Park or putting up the basketball courts down at Houghton Park?
Well, is there a specific, there's not a board for Hard Act anymore, is there?
Yes, there is.
I mean, it's our property up there, we own it, it's our department, all right?
because to go, I'm sorry for jumping in, but to go at Houghton Park, it needs to survive the gauntlet of the budget process. And surviving that, it's up against, competing against everything else. This allows a project to be funded philanthropically without having to compete against.
I'm not saying that we are providing, I'm not saying that we're providing the money and that they can't fundraise to get the money. I'm saying she's looking for the backing of the city to protect a person until he gets the funds for the rec department. I mean, why would we just not do that?
You're saying it's a no-brainer?
Yeah. No, I'm saying it's a no-brainer, but why were we, I mean, maybe I'm belaboring the conversation, let's just vote on it and get done with it, and we're all probably gonna say yes, but I just don't think that.
Isn't the better example the fountain in Taylor Park?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, maybe.
That's probably the better example, where the Rotary stepped up, said we need 300, but we put it to vote and passed a bond, if I'm not mistaken.
We put that one to a vote. Yeah,
And passed a bond, and then the Rotary paid it off. This might be a little bit different.
But we're talking about providing our backing. We're co-signing something to say that, look.
No, we're not co-signing. We're gonna
lend them the money
Yeah.
until they fund it, get it funded by fundraising.
Yeah, yeah,
It takes a city council vote for that.
yeah.
So I guess my question is, what happens if Valdemar gets hit by a bus tomorrow?
It's an obligation of the city that then retired through the annual appropriation process.
So ultimately, it would be out of the budget.
Yeah.
And we know you can find money in the budget, Dominic, you always do.
Yeah, the city manager can't just lend Valdemar $130,000, right?
I'm sorry you guys had to even come here and get this, but it seems to me to be a no-brainer, but okay. Well, I mean, it's not like we budgeted in the budget committee for this. The money's gonna come into us eventually, so we're just. This is a way to get the playground right away and not have to wait for Valdemar and others to put in the money for the playground.
And I'll talk about Home Park later, Jim.
I know you will.
But where will you get the money?
If it's defaulted?
No, when do you want to build, in the spring, Valdemar?
Well, basically, just like everything with the lead time, the gentleman says I can get this equipment within June of next year.
Okay, so that
So
has to come out
before it
of
used to be a
our
year
current
lead
budget,
time.
right?
We're gonna borrow it.
Okay. At what percent interest?
The memo, we modeled it at 3%. Generally we lend at 3%. Sometimes that's below market, sometimes it's, so, I suggest in this case that we lend at 3%, given that inflation's twice that, but we're the immediate beneficiary of it. Right? We're not lending to a restaurant.
No, I get that piece, but where will you get the money from?
People's Trust.
So it'll be a private.
It'll be a note. Yeah. I mean, we could take it out of our reserve funds, but I think that has a bigger impact on the organization, right? We regularly will use our borrowing ability to access cash and then pass that on to an enterprise that we want to support.
So we'll take the loan, and Valdemar, through his fundraising, will
Retire. Yeah.
retire.
Motion to approve the financing for Hard Act Playground.
Second. Any further? Do you have a comment?
I'm good. Let's do it.
Anyone? Comment? Question? Kelly, anything else to add to this?
No, I agree with Tim. It seems like a no-brainer, and although it's always nice to be here, so, you know.
It's always nice to have you.
Stick around for Home Park, that's what it is.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Valdemar,
Thank you.
start the
Thank you very
can
much.
drive.
Thank you.
I just did my
Yeah,
playground resume here on all the playgrounds I've done since 2019. I don't know if you know that about me. I've done many,
Thank
including
you.
the Collins Prairie one. That was around 130,000 too. So,
Let me,
Yeah,
let
this
me
is gonna
just
be
add to
great.
that.
huh?
Let me just add to that. I know that my other job, FCIDC, recognized Med Associates and all the contributions you folks have made to the community, and this just adds to that.
And I will pay this back.
We know you will. We know. So, but thank you for all your community efforts,
Thank you.
not only in the playground industry, but Green Up Day and butt litter and all that stuff. So, thank you for,
Taking the minute off.
thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I get my pictures back?
Let's see, we got one here. The brown
These are
color
for
one. Oh, yeah.
I got one right here.
Is that top secret or something?
No, I just printed them tonight.
Oh, great.
He's taking them back from us, he never reflects them back.
There you Get the money because it's in color pink.
Okay, I see.
Thank you.
Thanks, Valdemar. Kelly, thank you. So we're gonna move on to item number 6, which is presentation of walk and bike in Albans City Council.
I'm down next to you.
Good evening, folks.
Mr. Hutchinson, thank you for joining us.
My name's David Hutchinson. I live on Fairfield Street with my wife, Khaki, and I'm here with a group of people from Walk and Bike St. Albans to talk about the impending changes to Federal Street. First off, appreciation for getting us on the agenda tonight, pretty quick notice, and also much appreciation for the work that the city has done on working over the infrastructure of our downtown to support safe walking and biking. The downtown sidewalks, for example, are outstanding, and we get a lot of compliments about that kind of stuff, and it was a pleasure to work with the city on helping to get that bond vote passed. We have been working for about 7 or 8 years now as a group, trying to improve the infrastructure for safe walking and biking in the greater area, not just St. Albans City, but the town as well. And we have a number of projects that we're looking at, but one currently has to do with the proposed changes that are about to happen for Federal Street. We're aware that there is a considerable amount of work that's going to be done on Federal Street, and we have started to talk about what a great opportunity this would be to construct along Federal Street a multiple-use path that would get people safely in and out of the city, and then eventually to link it with a pathway through to the rail trail. So as you're aware now, that the trailhead is at the end of the trail behind Rail City Diner. And we see a tremendous opportunity to bring people into the community by way of their bikes or walking, and to have lunch, leave their cars here, shop, drink, use the local downtown businesses as a way of creating more vibrancy here, but also a great asset for local residents. So we are simply hoping that as this process with the Federal Street project begins to unfold, that there could be some planning around this multi-use path that could be part of this project. So it would be an adjustment to what you're currently thinking about, but we see some real value to this. I think you've got some documentation in your package that shows some of the perspective way that we think the path would go, but also some of the rationale for why we think this is a good idea. I know we've got some other people here, and I don't want to be the one to be the only spokesperson. And I know you may have questions as well, so I don't know if there's anyone here who Denise wants to say a few words. I know you've got to pick up your kid, so.
So, good evening, everybody. I'm Denise Smith, and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission right now for the city. I'm also on Walk and Bike St. Albans. I work for Northwestern Medical Center as the director of population health. And one of the things that I just want to emphasize is the importance of public process, especially when we're talking about a project as big as the redesign of a major throughway through our city, and the importance that public process has to provide different perspectives and ideas to public projects like this. Importantly, the people that it impacts the most. We did have a couple of people at this, actually Mitch is still here, so he can talk a little bit from like the walk and bike for St. Albans City School and that program and how much it's grown. And actually you can currently see the sidewalk as it's currently built along Federal Street does not contain the amount of people. There's like little goat paths along the sidewalk right now because it's not wide enough. So what I'm here to say really is just really hoping to consider a public process input opportunity for the community to think about how that project could evolve from when it was originally designed in 2016, to consider some other options and ideas for making it a much safer for alternative transportation for the kids that are using it, for people that want to come to our downtown, whether it's from the end of the rail trail or whether it's from other parts of our city. But I think there's a real opportunity on Federal Street to actually make it a much more attractive part of our community. I'm going to turn it to Mitch, who's next. Okay.
Actually, council, I can take it from here. The answer is no, Denise.
I'm just going to borrow the money.
She's not going to pick up your kid.
Valdemar's going to pay for it.
Val's going to pay for it and we'll pay back.
Mitch, I know you want to introduce yourself to the rest of the council.
Sure. My name is Mitch Craig, and I live on High Street, resident of the city. And I also work at St. Albans City School as one of my job responsibilities is as the walk and bike kind of promotion person here. And for the last 10 years, I've organized kids to walk and bike to school. So I'm excited about this project for two reasons. One, I think it is a really good idea to be able to potentially connect the rail trail to downtown in a nice, safe way. But from my perspective as a person who walks to school almost every day and back, and as a person who gets kids to go there in droves along Federal Street, which is our main kind of route to school, I would love to see one side of Federal Street widened into a multi-use pathway. And this would make it safer for the many kids who travel that way.
Which side?
The east side here.
Could you give up the west side?
I could, that would be acceptable to me, but I just want one really good pathway possible. Yeah. The police who worked with us in the past have recommended that students ride their bicycles on the sidewalks in the city to get to school. And I actually favor that too. I'd rather have them doing that than riding wildly on the paved roads. So it would be very helpful if there was a safer, wider spot on Federal Street for that to occur. Yeah, that's my...
I don't know if you've seen the walking school buses that Mitch orchestrates. Huge numbers of kids are getting to and from school that way.
We have 16 times a year they're going to school as a group.
Hi everyone, I'm Liesl Ulrich-Verderber. I'm a resident of Fairfield and a business owner here in town. I'm here with my partner. I'm here to sort of propose this as someone who for the past year lived in a country where walking and cycling were incredibly accessible. Rick biked to work every single day safely, and that city only put in cycling 10 years ago, and now a vast majority of the city is cycling safely throughout the community. And as someone who's young, hasn't started a family yet, I think things that are attractive about communities, especially when we look at how St. Albans has attracted young professionals and is attracting businesses to our city. Being from Fairfield, St. Albans really is a gem of our Franklin County, and they really stand out as an attractive part of our community at large. And so something like this really says to the community that we care about young people and we care about young families being able to safely move their children around. We also care about things like being able to get to landmarks like the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, which does connect now to the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, which is one of the best rail trails, going to be one of the best rail trails in the nation. So there's a huge opportunity for economic development there as well. So I just urge you guys to take a look at this as something that really is about the future of St. Albans. I know that these plans were put together in 2016, and I have been in and out of St. Albans and the Franklin County community since my entire life, and I'm seeing St. Albans pointed in an incredible direction now that's different than when it was in 2016. And so I think opening this up to public comment, bringing something like a multi-use path to our community is a huge asset and really says a lot to young people like myself who are thinking about raising a family in this community, that there's something different happening in St. Albans. And I really do believe something different and important is happening in this city that we need other people to know about. And this is just one street, but I think it's a good step in the right direction for that. So I thank you guys for letting us come here and discuss this with you. I think it's really an important part of sort of the ecosystem we're creating here.
Well, I remember you talking about a number of people making considerations about where they move to based on the availability of good cycling and walking opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, even for us, we're even thinking about how do we cycle from Fairfield into the farmer's market in St. Albans, which is possible now with the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. But I think there are other young people who are looking at community assets like that, and a lot of people that want to move out of Burlington and out of the Burlington area to communities like St. Albans, and now with virtual work, I think there's more and more opportunities for that St. Albans can present, and this is just one sort of step in the right direction towards that.
Thank you. So Chip, can you give us an overview of the project, Chip, or Don, an overview of the project and where we stand on it?
Let me take that if I can. I think we want to divide this question a little bit. There's some things that are easier than others. We don't want, this is a federal transportation project. You don't get any more bureaucracy anywhere on earth than a federal transportation project. We're 5 years out with the tailwinds at our back and an $8 million appropriation. We're 5 years out before it's right. So if you're going to spend $8 million, you want to get it right.
Yeah.
But simple counts for a lot, right? And one of the reasons we were successful in this project is we were able to check all the boxes under degree of readiness, right? So, and there's been a lot of public input, to get to this point, right? It wasn't just Chip and I in a room, there was a lot of this along the way. There's tremendous opportunity on this blue line going north. We haven't owned that land until very recently. We now own that land in partnership with the Agency of Transportation, but we bought it together so that we could access the fund redevelopment and link the rail trail, right? So that vision is there's a high degree of alignment there. And we can spend some time evaluating the feasibility. That's why I got so granular with Mitch about making a path on Federal Street. But there's an army of engineers that we have that will spend months drawing up iterations and evaluating options if you let them.
Right.
And that's their good, right? But you can easily spend $1 million on public engagement and evaluating alternatives. So we've got to be careful about how far down that road we go. Otherwise, we've been talking about Federal Street for 20 years. If we're not vigilant, it could be another 10 instead of another 5.
Well, we're certainly not looking to slow things up.
Yeah.
But we would love to work with you around some of the planning,
I think those are great ideas, and where there's a win-win, where we can say, let's have one big wide one instead of two small ones, right? But there are gonna be fixed parameters in there, like where the aerial utilities are, and how much more land we have to buy. You know, when we're doing our economic development projects, the right-of-way process is a lot simpler. You know, it's kind of whatever works. Imagine buying right-of-way through the federal process where, you know, every single thing is looked at through a civil rights lens, right? To be sure that you're not taking it, like, that's, it, you know, so if we say, oh, we need 10 more feet here, we gotta go buy that 10 more feet. And that person's may not wanna sell us that 10 feet.
We've seen this.
The new infrastructure bill, are there additional funds that are gonna, I mean, I know there are a lot of additional funds are coming into Vermont. I'm sure that some are earmarked for bike infrastructure and stuff. Is there a way to access some of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's Chip's, you know, probably the best grant writer in the state. He's really good at that. You know, we got $8 million for a $10 million project. That's gonna be 12 when we're done. So we're gonna keep fundraising like crazy.
It's about the timing as much as it is how much it's gonna cost. Because time will also kill a project. And we've already drawn up the deeds for the current plan. And I think we should have a hard conversation before we decide that the west side doesn't get a sidewalk after all.
Yeah. Maybe it can all go on the west side, right? You know, I think, you know, we can, so, I'm just trying to find a smooth flowing water here, right?
Yeah.
You know, it might be that what we have is the best alternative.
Right? I think it could start with a meeting with, this is the way it looks now, this is what's currently planned. You know, let's recognize benefits of the current plan and then see if there's a way to augment it with the current, what's being supported tonight.
Yeah.
Rather than take something away.
You know, we love the vision. We recognize the synergy that you're talking about. You know, it's.
We got a lot of people out there who would be willing to come and talk about this.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think the value of this really is, you know, I know it's 5 feet of property, but it's also, you know, 5 feet of property that makes our city a lot safer. I mean, right now we have bike lanes, but imagine getting your kid in an alley cat from downtown to the bike trail on the current on-road bike lanes that we have on Route 11. It's on the proposed Federal Street where large trucks are going to go through. I mean, we're just not going to get young people or young families or even cyclists like ourselves who are experienced in bike thousands of miles to want to do that, and then we end up using the sidewalks, which then annoys the hell out of pedestrians. And if we're on the roads, we annoy, you know, truck drivers and automobile drivers. You know, I think that there's a benefit to having, you know, if we can figure out together how to widen this path so that we can all use it, I think we save a lot of headache and a lot of friction. We stop a lot of friction in the community for what could be a huge benefit for us and the downtown merchants.
The core problem you're seeing is that the sidewalks are too skinny.
Yeah, they're too skinny, so you can't fit.
Not sidewalks.
You can't fit a cyclist and a pedestrian on, I believe, on the current proposed sidewalk. You need a wider sidewalk in order to fit.
A lane for pedestrians, a lane for bikes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going very different speeds, so it's nice to have a little bit of room there.
Let's have a meeting about how wide you think it should be, and
There's a resource that I put on there. It's the rural community one. It's on the, I think it's on the second, third page. They have a lot of great advising for communities of our size on how to put in these kind of bike lanes, minimums, what different, how to like put crossings in, all of this kind of stuff. And they're a great resource to take a look at. I think it's on the very back of the proposal that you guys have. There's a little resources page there. And that one has a lot of good information on what some minimums look like that could be helpful for us.
I should mention as well that Local Motion, which is a statewide organization that deals with walking and biking, has been offering assistance for us as well. And I know they'd be willing to help going forward, and they're expert around stuff like this.
That's financial assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a collection right here.
If you guys can recruit Valdemar. Recruit Valdemar to help you.
Yeah. The current, and our understanding of the assessment that Local Motion did on the current, it doesn't even meet the complete streets regulations of the state, so, which are guidelines, they're not like, but it doesn't even meet the current complete streets guidelines that the state has.
Very few federally funded road projects actually meet our complete streets guidelines. It's a real problem, and it's exactly the problem of we need this project. We cannot have it slow down. And so to do all the things that we should be doing, we have to sacrifice time, federal money, project costs, and so there's this constant tension between those two things.
Mostly, we really appreciate your hearing us out. We would love to be cooperating with you and going forward with this.
So what we really need is our awesome federal delegation to work with other people to, figure out how to create the space for more collaboration and less craziness. And I think there is intention in the IRA for that, but it's going to be years before we see any kind of like bureaucratic cultural shift. So I think we've got some smart people like Chip that can help us figure out what can we wedge in here to satisfy some of the demands we have in the city for more walkability and bikeability in the context of the project that we have.
I think we can really look at this as like a solid MVP of what the potential for a future of St. Albans looks like, and asking ourselves, if this works out and we figure out that this is how much we can expand the sidewalks by, I think it gives us an opportunity in other places to look at other streets that we have or other parts of our community that could benefit from an MVP. So I think that it's good to think of this as a positive experiment that we can figure out it's figure outable. I don't think it's the end of the world.
Any questions, council?
No, my only comment is, I just want to make sure we don't add any time to this, just because of how much, when we first started talking about this 10 plus years ago, it was a $15 to $20 million tops project. Now we're talking $12 million for one street, not even building the new road in any of that bit. So this is just fixing what we have, and we're talking $12 million already. And it's just a section of what we are.
No, that's got the new road in it. Just so you-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't put it out to bid yet.
Yeah, so.
This is talking the section that comes off the interstate, that L-bend,
Yeah.
the 12 million's got that little section?
Yeah, and then a signal at the end of the sash.
Wow.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. David and Kathy, sorry for keeping you up so late. Appreciate it.
And Denise.
And Denise, yeah.
She's not that late, that was looking in our windows.
She waits till Tim falls asleep every night and wonders whether she wants to smother him tonight or wait till tomorrow.
We will continue, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know if I can.
No, you're moving to the agenda.
Next meeting, we're not gonna be done.
We're gonna make up some time here in the next 3
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, folks, thank you.
Ready for a lightning round?
All right, we're gonna continue on, moving to item number 7, continue discussion four-way stop at Lake and Elm Streets. Does anyone have any solutions for that?
I do. After discussion and meetings, I think what the appropriate step should be is to remove some of the parking in front of the church, the daycare, and from the parking spot across the church, and then put up some type of speed reducing or speed traffic calming structures. Maybe not for the winter, but for the summer. See if that works, and what the repercussions are from there. We might go that way, and if not, at the end, we'll decide whether we need stop signs. But for now, given the equities of all the properties, making those corners
up to the driveways on the south side, eliminating two from the, in front of the daycare on the north side, and then one church lot, parking spot on the, was it one or two?
Two in front of the church.
Two in front of the church.
One in front of.
Go with that, yeah.
Yep, Almond Blossoms, and then one in front, one on the southwest corner.
Yeah. Let's try that and see if it works. I mean, I think it will. I think it resolves a lot of the issues. It may not. If it doesn't, we may need the stop signs there, but I think right now, stop signs on a major thoroughfare in the city of St. Albans is not for the benefit of the city of St. Albans.
Your traffic calming devices are at the discretion of staff?
Yeah, yeah, whatever the safety committee and staff thinks are the best ways to go there.
Pallets will not work.
Pallets and
Tim has told me pallets will not work.
Chip,
I was voting for the pallets, but I guess that's.
Maria, you good with that?
I'm fine with that, trying that, seeing.
And revisiting it?
And then if we find it doesn't work,
We'll revisit.
then bring back the discussion of the stop signs.
Lou, you good with that?
Yep.
Okay, everyone? So we have a motion.
No, I don't think we need a motion.
We don't need a motion.
No motion, okay.
If we do traffic calming measures and they work there, ideally I'd like to see them moved further down Lake Street, more when you come into the city. So if we do experiment there, find out they work, yeah, to slow people down. I mean, theoretically, by the time you hit Walnut Street, you should be doing 25 miles an hour. So if they work there and it does start, if we do notice people are going slower there, we can move them down. It'd be ideally to move them down further.
Chad's always wanting.
And maybe some more type of eye-catching, hey, the speed limit's 25 here on the way down through. I think that'll work.
More potholes.
Yeah.
That'll slow people down.
Chad is always trying to get something extra.
He is.
Always trying to sneak something in there.
But my word goes down a little further down the street. It goes all the way to Edward. I gotta get something a little further down.
All right, going to item number 8, initial discussion of one-way street during school hours on Belleville Street. This came about by a petition that we received. We had an individual at our last meeting express concerns. The petition is signed by approximately 25 to 30 folks, asking for that to be one-way, which has been, this issue has been under discussion for a year, if not more.
One way during certain hours is there.
Right.
And the staff take on this is, we need an hour, and we need to notify everybody in the neighborhood. And we need the school here, and there needs to be an overview of what the options are, and we need a public hearing on this. If that's the question for you tonight. Are you interested enough in this to schedule a public hearing, or do you want to let it lie? I mean, if you look at the names on that address, on that list.
None of them are on that street.
Yeah, yeah.
Half of them aren't even on that side, on the right side of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm open to the discussion. I just think it's an easy thing for the school to fix. I think they just, anyone coming out of that parking lot, they just cone it off and don't let people come out that way.
Well, let's not have a discussion now. But that might be something.
That
But,
seems
yeah.
like the.
I'm okay with a public hearing. Let's hear it.
Yeah,
Get some school participation. Yeah.
Good. You will coordinate that?
Let's set it up.
At the school.
Everyone?
Let's have it at the school.
In the dark.
In the dark.
Everyone good with that?
I think we should.
That's your ward.
I'll bring some pallets.
That's your ward.
Yeah, I know, because they do come around the house there on that, what they call Cross Street, I think it is. I don't have a problem with it, really.
We
I
might
don't have
actually
any
think
kids
about
going to
site
school.
visit.
They're talking about coming out of the parking lot and not being able to go down Bellows Street anymore. You'd have to go out and down Aldous.
Oh, okay.
But it's not even coming out of the parking lot. It's those houses.
Yeah, so what they're saying is that people are coming this way, so it's messing, picking up traffic. Because if you're waiting in line to pick up your kid, but you don't want to wait in line to pick up your kid, you want to go into the parking lot, now you got the traffic coming in the lane that you're supposed to be in. It's all down to picking up the kids, is what it said.
Okay, I got a question. I see in the mornings and in the evening, when they go out of school, you have cars parked down Calvary Street,
Mm-hmm.
and you have them over on Fifth Avenue, then you got the buses coming out. And then they come across in front of the house and around too. I don't have a problem with it myself, as long as I haven't gotta get out. 40 years ago, we either walked or took the bus.
I do tend to agree with Chad, though, that I think a lot of this is a city problem too. I mean, a school problem too.
This is a school problem.
School problem too, not just a city problem, it's a school problem too.
Yeah, Chip and I just attended this really nice community discussion that the district facilitated, and I think this is an opportunity for us to, talk with.
We should have mentioned this while we were there.
I can't believe we did, neither one of us thought about it, but
I mean,
there was a lot to talk about.
Okay,
Bill was here when they brought it last
Yeah,
month. So he's aware of it.
okay, so, Dom, you're gonna reach out to the city, the supervisory union and coordinate a community meeting? Chip will do that. Or right, that was item number 9, excuse me, that was number 8, moving on to number 9, which is the approval of a facade grant for 22 Stebbins, which is a building that has been renovated by Santini Catering, owned by Sue Leclerc. You have a drawing within your plans to see what that building's gonna look like. I would share that it's been sort of a building in disrepair for many years, but it is now very productive.
Yeah, that's the segue. I mean, this isn't in the center of downtown, but it's been a blighted property for a while, and I would have put my money on it coming down eventually, but Susan's moved into it. She's moved her catering business there.
And loves it, I might add.
And catering businesses locally are actually in really short supply. I've been hearing a lot from folks who are trying to hold events who are having trouble finding caterers who will serve their events. We've got a business that, the type of business we want to cultivate in the community. We've got a blighted building that if it's going to stay, and it's in an area where the city recently invested in 2018 in that, which was actually the first phase of the Federal Street project, then I think we do have a vested public interest in supporting the facade of this building the same way we've supported the facades and signage of some of the buildings elsewhere in the more toward the center of downtown. It's also just down the hill from 14 Stebbins Street, which the city also invested in that neighborhood.
And local law offices too, right?
And yes, the most beautiful building on the street continues to be the local law office. Yeah. The work being proposed is a total replacement of the siding and beautification of the existing windows. It'll be a wood siding, it won't be vinyl. It'll be a wood. I mean, I've seen, yeah, I think it's wood, it's not vinyl siding, it's wood. It might be the cementitious boards, but I was told it's wood. It will be painted the color that was approved by the Design Advisory Board already. And she's had some signage put together by JD Design, which has been doing some good signage downtown as well. The estimate for the facade is $30,000. The estimate for the signage is $9,150. So if we were to do a 50-50 grant, which has been the norm for most of our facade and signage grants, that would be a grant of $19,575.
Just one quick question, Chip, why go with wood and not the longer lasting vinyl? Is that her choice, is that?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that type of siding is cheaper than the vinyl siding that really doesn't look good. I mean, you can get vinyl siding that really just looks like vinyl siding, and it's got a seam that goes across 3 different strips, and there's something to be said about a good wood or cementitious board of siding that.
DAB hates vinyl.
And the DAB hates vinyl.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, long answer. Didn't want to throw them under the bus. Our rules do discourage it. They don't prohibit it, but they do discourage it. And that's the way the DAB.
$19,000 is a lot of money. Boy, that building would look fantastic there with this. Anything that we can put in there as far as must maintain the business for a number of years or something like that?
That's a good idea.
So that we can make sure that we're gonna get the bang for the buck. If we're gonna spend that kind of money, which is a lot, and I'm in favor of it, and I hope, am I okay doing this? Because my building's across the street.
Yeah.
Do you think I have a conflict of interest?
No, you don't, no.
Okay, so, I mean,
Rising tide
Just
raises
don't
all
commit.
boats.
yeah, right. So, I mean, it is a big chunk of change for us, but if we can get some kind of commitment out of that people, out of that business, that they're gonna be there for a little while, that would certainly ease the pain.
I would add that traffic counts on that corner have increased dramatically, I think, since.
What's that, Tim?
The traffic counts on the corner.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I agree with you. I think it will really help that area of the city for sure.
Yeah.
So,
In the ballet school, that would fit right in. It would just look really tremendous.
Any other comments on this? Entertain a motion to approve the facade grant for Santini Catering.
So moved.
We have a motion from Chad, seconded by
Second.
Marie. Thank you, Marie. Any other comments?
Are we gonna add to that with some type of commitment to?
Thank you for that.
5 years?
Sure.
5 with a commitment. Please add, I'll amend my motion to include a 5-year commitment to stay at that location.
I'll second.
Well, I think that opens up, so what's the repercussion if she doesn't?
Just to pay it back.
Take a side off.
Prorated?
I think it's just a moral obligation.
I think it's free food. For like,
Let's just
Repay it.
divide it by 5 and that's what she has to owe us back.
prorated
right?
payback,
Yeah.
prorated payback.
Yeah. Divide it by 5 and if she's there 4 years and wants to leave, she owes us some money. We've made worse loans.
Which goes back into development.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 10, consideration of state loan application for CSO storage planning project.
We've had a discussion with the engineers planning the separation project on Federal Street for the CSO, and we've run into some major hurdles that would just make that project take a lot of time and expense. And we think fiduciarily, it has a lot to do with getting permission from the railroad to make the connection between Federal Street and Pearl Street. So we want to stick a pin in that one. It could be a great idea, but right now the railroad is a nearly insurmountable challenge. So we also want our engineers working on other solutions, and the idea of being able to put offline storage somewhere, most likely underground, has some benefits as well. The first one being, when you have offline storage, you can actually go to the state and say, with this much storage, we will reduce our overflows by this volume, because it's going into storage. It's not going into the brook. And then it slowly gets pumped out into the sewer system after a storm event. And actually, when you have offline storage, you still get all of that water treated by the system, because the benefit that doesn't often get talked about in a combined system is that we are treating all that stormwater, and that stormwater and the wastewater is all cleaner when it comes out of the plant. So we want to, we have this application for a loan, which we're pretty sure we're gonna get, to also have our engineers working on the offline storage planning as well. And that is one of the things that's in our long-term control plan that we adopted for the CSO, so it was eventually something we'd have to go into the planning stages on anyway.
Do we have an estimate of the size of the holding tank?
No, we kinda have to get into this to figure out exactly where it would be and how big it could be.
I know, you've been telling me for years.
I'm glad you picked up on my look. I think this is a great idea. I think, yeah, it'll be interesting following this through moving forward. So you just need an approval.
The back has signatures. Some of you will just have to kind of stuff your signature and your printed name in.
Motion to approve the state loan
Well, I was
application.
gonna say, Chip, we haven't approved
Well,
it
okay,
yet.
fine,
You're
fine.
jumping the gun a little bit.
Second.
You get complacent
We have
sometimes.
a motion from Tim, seconded by Chad, to approve the application for the revolving loan fund. Any questions for Chip? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, now we can sign the document, Chip.
Thank you very much.
That's the one we're looking at.
Sign there and there, please.
Now we're moving on to number 11, consider approval to add Ashley Jean as authorized representative of People's Trust Banking Resolution and ACH accounts.
I'll make the motion that we authorize that, and I'd like some discussion on this too in a second. So I'll make the motion, we add Ashley Jean as an authorized representative of PT Banking.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any further
Discussion.
comments?
Yeah, I do. I think these 11 and 12 are like administrative. And we've had to get together and do these a lot when the clerk's position changes or the clerk's staff changes or someone new comes on in the county. Why can't, is there a way that we can just have the city manager, the mayor, and one person from the council just to go ahead and approve this? Almost like a rocket docket when we have go to the Supreme Court. Instead of having the whole council waste our time with this stuff, this should be stuff that could be handled almost by staff, right? Don, do you think? I know it's
It's a check and balance.
Yeah.
Right, staff can't do it, it needs to be board oversight.
It doesn't take us all that long to do it.
No, it doesn't, but I mean, it clogs up the agenda.
Like this.
No,
Clogs up the agenda and.
Peoples are sticklers that we have to pass this resolution, the board has to sign it. They make us get everyone's signature. I'm not gonna go into it.
All right,
They really want to see all the
Discussion
boards.
vote.
The downtown board has to do it for St. Albans for the future.
I'll withdraw my discussion.
All right.
We could have done this 30 times now, Tim.
Yeah.
All the discussion.
Good night. Let's go.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve Ashley for a signature. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. And consider approval to add Ashley as authorized representative of Water Infrastructure Financing Program.
I'll make a motion on 12 to add Ashley as authorized representative to Water Infrastructure Financing Programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Marie. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. So, is this, is Ashley the treasurer? No, we're still interviewing, or have we put it out for interview?
Ashley's been promoted to business manager. And we will soon begin recruiting for director of finance and administration.
Okay.
So
Right.
please, you can sign on this
Mayor's
next
report.
to where your name
Mayor's
is.
report, proclamation of this Saturday.
Tim, you sign this one.
Everyone has a copy, I won't read through it, but everyone has a copy supporting Small Business Saturday for,
I think you should read it, Tim.
Want to read it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Where's
we
it,
should.
where is
Proclamation,
it,
right?
here, anywhere?
Any one of those lines.
All right, so proclamation of Small Business Saturday, whereas the government of St. Albans City, Vermont, the city of St. Albans, Vermont celebrates our local small businesses and their contributions made to our local economy and the community. And whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in the community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported They dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And whereas the City of St. Albans supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore I, Tim Smith, Mayor of St. Albans City, Vermont, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small business and merchants on Small Business Saturday throughout the year. So,
Well deserved in small business.
I think this is important based on all of our investment into the community and all of the accolades we received for the way downtown looks. I'm guessing everyone's in the same boat here almost daily.
Do you need a motion to support your proclamation?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's on here as DNV, that's why I asked. That must be an error. I didn't think so, but.
So we'll move on to B on my report, and then I'll come back to a couple other things. The extension of Matt Mulheron as our town health officer. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Tim. So what period of time is that for? Is this a year now? Year. So 1 year.
Do we have a deputy?
Who's that mayor? That's from
No deputy?
No,
So all
we do.
those in favor?
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, we
It's
do.
either Charlie or Mel, I forget who.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we extend that for 1 year. Couple things, Nicole, do you want to give us a quick report on your first election and how the job is going?
Sure. I've got lots of great feedback from everybody, so I thank all of you for your support, and everybody else who's helped me. Everything went really smoothly as far as I can see. I've submitted everything that I can up to this point. Canvassing and everything is done, so as of 10 a.m. tomorrow, the state should be sending out your certificates and things like that to our state representatives and everybody who won. I'm just waiting on the information for the Justice of the Peaces that won, so hopefully by the end of the week that will also be available. So far, everything is going well, and now in the next weeks going forward, I'm just plugging away and getting everything caught up and up to date and keep it rolling.
Apologies for, I did sit this one out, I haven't sat one out in a long time.
Okay.
Just taking so many days off the last 5 months. I'm there in March, right on the schedule.
I'm gonna put you on the schedule. We'll have you there in January too, and we have to go through our voters list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I hope there were quite a bit of folks who are
You don't have to
registered
tell
that no
me
longer live
twice.
here, right? And I just wanted to, I know there's gonna be a lot of conversation when it comes up about doing the challenge letters and how many people are gonna get challenged, but we have a whole lot of people on our rolls that don't live here anymore. And
There's a whole lot of ballots that I checked in that I know do not live here. And I mean, I know people from years past that are now living in Texas that are still on that list, but I can't remove them without sending them any info. So as long as we can get our past residents to sign that letter and.
Is there an
get them
easier
out.
way for those challenges, Mike, to discover those?
I mean, so if somebody registers in another town in the state of Vermont, then it's easy. And I think,
It's an easy transfer.
yeah,
in and out.
there's some cleanup that we can do there that's easy. But, you know, Vermont, it's something that we'll look at, especially if I stay on GovOps, if we can, you know, do some reciprocity with other states. But we have in statute a really strange thing where if you have an intent to return, so like if you're a child that's moved out of state, you're voting somewhere else, you really have residency somewhere else, if you have an intent to come back to Vermont, it's pretty broadly interpreted. So you could really be living somewhere else for years, but if you plan on coming back here, you can stay on the voter rolls in your town. And I think we really do, at the state level, need to take a look at that. That's not
We have
the
a few
clerk's
Canadians who
responsibility.
did vote this election because their last residence was here in the city, and they do have an intent to come back. You know, or they're trying to move back, and, you know, they're looking for housing, this, that, and the other, but according to the state, they weren't able to vote.
So those would be Americans living in Canada, not Canadians.
Sorry, yes. I apologize.
Think about that for a second, thanks for clearing that up.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that.
Yes.
I think you did a great job.
Thank
A little too cold, but.
Turn up the thermostat outside of City Hall.
Now, the other piece of that isn't, we all had to attest if we received a ballot and didn't use it, right?
Yeah,
How was
so if
that?
you came in, there wasn't any complaints, you know, we just had to have them sign an affidavit of no ballot passed if they came in without their ballot. Because the state did issue every single registered voter, whether they received it or not, a ballot. Whether it could be wrong address, you know, they moved, whatever. So some were returned to us for a perfectly good address. So the Postal Service really also has some work to do on their end for getting those, but everybody was great with signing affidavits, and
And that will be something that will be done every election.
I believe they are going to keep this moving forward, so hopefully, I mean, we had a great turnout. This is almost double, if not triple, what we had for.
How many returns did you get?
Roughly 1,500.
Are
Undelivered.
are those,
Those
is
are just
that
the
evidence of a
undelivered
challenge?
ones.
Would that be evidence to use for a challenge?
I believe I can, yeah. And I have every single one of those alphabetized.
How many did we consider spoiled or not able to count because they didn't sign the envelope?
3.
That's not too bad. So
Not at all.
if we get those back, are we allowed to contact those people and say, hey, you didn't sign the envelope? Because theoretically, we have their return address right on there. Okay.
There was only 3 that were sent back defective, you know, whether the person didn't sign, didn't put it in, left it blank, or you just didn't follow the procedures.
Okay.
But that's out of 2,300 votes, that's pretty good.
And as long as we make an effort.
Yeah, and we contacted, you know, less than 20 people, said, hey, you didn't sign, or, you know, hey, you did this, and.
So most of those were cured, actually.
Yeah.
There were only 3 that were uncured. Yeah, that's great.
Sorry.
That was, when we did as 15, we did the law, that was the idea. It's just great to hear it's working in practice. It's awesome.
Anything else, Nicole?
No, that's it.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Are those signature documents still circulating?
Tim's probably put them in a stack.
Yeah, I did. That would be over. A couple things on mine was, still conversation is skunks, possums, and raccoons. Are you hearing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Skunks, no doubt about it.
Can we do we know how much Pest Pro's been out there?
Look into it and see. How has the problem changed since we last talked about it?
Has it? Still bad.
We
And I'm even more irate because both my dogs have sprayed. So that really pushes it up to the top of the list.
Maybe that moose will chase them away.
We had, a couple years ago, I think my dogs tried to rid the entire city of skunks. And we now bring our compost to co-op and put compost in our backyard. And
I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of it. So my neighbor complained because his compost bucket with a lid on it, he has on his game camera a raccoon taking the cover off, getting in, and then spewing it all over. And then after he did that, he welcomed the skunks in. They got into the compost bin themselves. So it's a tough.
put a block on it.
Oh, that's what he ended up doing.
Yeah, put a block on it.
So I just,
I think the Pest Pro folks, they've been out there, they say it's a heavy lift to trap them. They don't think they're living there, they think they're coming down from the hillside, and so it's difficult.
a lot of people I talk to think they're under their porch or
Yeah.
decks
Well,
or.
maybe we need a different provider, Did we have this problem before we had composting?
I mean, mean, I've been here 5 years and no one complained up to this year. I mean, when
Live,
the top,
but,
I think.
I've had skunks.
Yeah,
Well, I know there's been skunks, but I haven't, the number seems to be much greater than it has been.
and just,
I just,
it'd be interesting to figure, you know, I don't think we can ban composting.
no, I don't suggest that,
But given the density of the city, maybe we should think about
but
talking
education
with-
sheet.
Do we have heart traps that we can lend out? Like maybe that's it, maybe we get 4 or 5 heart traps that we lend out for $20 deposit, bring it back, we get back the money. I don't know what we do with them once we catch them, but.
Throw a blanket over it.
do what we always want.
Andy takes.
It'd be interesting to hear what it would cost to have us partner with the solid waste district, you know, like, to think about providing that service.
Yeah, no, I just bring it up to keep the
Provide what
discussion.
service?
Pick them up, pick up people's compost, right? I
I
mean,
mean, you can, I mean, some
do.
trash companies do
that's
offer
my
that.
point, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, co-op's pretty close, I mean, not everyone has transportation, but the co-op's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about trash, I think it's an essential municipal service, that when you don't do it, you get problems like this, right? We could partner with those guys to pick up 5 gallon buckets.
Okay. Would you be Marcus?
Carl.
Carl. Marcus, is Marcus doing minutes too?
We've made a shift in how we're staffing our city boards. We're gonna increasingly use part-time minute takers to help out, which allows us to be sure that more often than not, every board has a minute taker and it's not falling back onto board members. And we can,
Is Marcus one of those, or is he doing police advisory?
I don't think so. Marcus wasn't doing any minute taking, was he?
Not that I was aware of.
No, he's on the board, he's a board member.
He is now, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think
Carl, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I've met some of you before. I'm Carl Watkins. I am a minute taker for most of the boards I've done, at least probably once. There's a few of them that I haven't done yet. Probably been doing this for, I don't know, has it been a year yet?
That's a good question. I think it's been more than a year.
Yeah, when did I start?
Right now. You got a gig on the planning commission out of it.
Yeah, I am an alternate on the planning commission. Yeah.
You've done the police advisory before, haven't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have been the police advisor. Yeah, glad to be here. I always enjoy myself. Y'all are great. Thank you for the hard work you put in.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
And Noel said you were from Richmond?
Yeah, from Richmond, Virginia. I moved here in 2018.
Wow.
Short time period, I was the store manager at the Walgreens. That was awful.
Don't put that in.
Can we cut that?
Yeah, he knows the minute taker.
I was more worried about the camera. Thank you, Carl, appreciate it. You're welcome. I don't think I have anything else. The railroad, I'd like to initiate that discussion about potentially having them sell the last building that's still up right now by the pool, the old pool.
We're working on a omnibus real estate deal with them.
Okay. Tim, we're gonna start with you.
I think I have nothing other than congratulations, Mike. Congratulations, all.
Robert?
I don't have anything except congratulations to Mike also.
Mike, you want to congratulate Bob?
Congratulations, Bob, and congratulations to Nicole. First general election, going smoothly. It was,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
and also, Halloween was really fun this year. People like decorated, like it was nice in the neighborhoods, like we took Mile around for a lot longer, and the weather was like, yeah, it was perfect, so just very, very nice.
On a Monday, no less.
Yeah. I feel bad for all the teachers the next day, but.
Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
I'm just gonna throw,
Same gentleman called him,
Right.
and 5
Check. Mike gave me his extra time. So I got cataract surgery, don't need glasses anymore.
Me too.
You did too?
I've had over 2 years.
I did a
I
lot
love
of
it.
research.
So I only need these as readers.
Me too.
I've been through Richmond, I never.
So that's why people didn't know what happened, that's what happened. I had cataract surgery and made all the difference. I've had glasses since 4th grade and I've done without, so I'm excited.
Wow.
That's just and that's, as I tell people, that's HIPAA information, so it doesn't go any further. It doesn't go any further than
That
here.
anybody who sees it on public access, okay, great.
Don't take it to the next time. John?
Just a few things that, 2 people reached out to me, one about electric scooters on the sidewalk, so, he said the kiddo went flying by them, they were walking on the sidewalk, came up from behind them, went right by them, probably doing 15 miles an hour, so just a heads up, it's probably something we're gonna have to think about. We got the winter to think about it, but, I'm finding they're gonna be more prevalent. So, my son has one, it goes almost 30 miles an hour.
E-bikes are a thing, I want an e-bike.
This is a scooter.
Yeah, but
This
still, I
is
mean.
little wheels on it like this. and
Right, but they go fast, that's the issue.
They fly pretty fast, so. I mean,
Someone's gonna get hit on the driveway because the car can't react in time.
his, he got headlights, it's got brake lights, got tail lights, so, I mean, besides directionals.
Should be in the street.
It's legit, so just something we should think about. Someone also contacted me about the tennis courts in Home Park. They're basically unusable, so, I see kids in there riding their bikes, so that's a good thing, but, for playing tennis, we just might be to the point where they're almost beyond. So the cracks are a good inch and a half, a lot of them. A few years ago, we put this mesh over it and coated it, I think it got us another 7 to 10 years, but, just a heads up that.
It's included in the Houghton Park renovation plan that is making its way to you all.
Okay.
With pickleball.
Yeah,
It would be fantastic, yeah.
that's the plan.
And then also at Home Park, a lot of the playground structures have the concrete that holds the posts in the ground sticking up 4 to 6 inches. So it seems really dangerous around some of the stuff that's meant for the really little kids. So just a heads up on that. I don't think there's anything we can do now, but I don't know how you think. I don't know if you just dig down and sink them back in, or you just pile dirt around them. I have no idea how you fix it. But
It seems to happen. I think we usually just bury it, right?
I just think they work. I think what happens is they just work their way up.
Yeah.
So.
Just to touch on Chad's thing about the e-bikes and the e-scooters, so I've been in conversation with Kelly regarding Albans Hill and Hardhack with e-bikes on the trails as well. And what's the policy relative to, you could have someone out mountain biking and having an e-bike go by about 30 miles an hour, so that's another conversation. I think it's something that we have to face here soon to have a policy. I've seen e-bikes and scooters pass cars on Main Street.
Yeah, they're all around,
Yeah, we can look into it and see. I'm surprised it hasn't been dealt with in the State House. When I was working there, the Segway guys came through, right, and preempted every town from enacting Segway regs by doing state legislation. That hasn't been done yet for the e-bikes?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so right now, going back a couple of years since I've been on the transportation committee, but an electric assisted bike is still considered a bicycle. Under state law, it's not a motorized vehicle.
Yeah.
So the question, but they're supposed to be, I think it's a 15-mile-an-hour limit. So as soon as you get above that speed rating, you're in this gray area where you really aren't permitted to be anywhere. You definitely can't be on a public highway with an electric assisted bike that goes faster than a certain speed. So now we're in a sort of brave new world where we probably do need to adopt some.
We can look into it, research it. It might be a hard space to define what we want to regulate, right? Given we don't want to inadvertently capture the walking bike crowd in the net, right? So.
There's a lot of conversations going on. I had some information sent to me from Acadia National Park and their carriage roads and level 1 what's permissible and all that, so I think it's being discussed more and more, and
Yeah.
there may be examples for us.
Okay.
I think we could do some more outreach in preparation for the spring about how you need to walk your bikes on the sidewalk in downtown, whether it's an e-bike or not, or a scooter. And you can ride it on sidewalks elsewhere in the city, but if you're going fast, you better watch out, because motorists coming out of their driveways, they do not assume you're coming at them that fast. I mean,
So this incident was way down on
Yeah.
South Main, so, you know, it wasn't on.
you know, we never really went on social media for this year, and I think we could next year, and maybe at least raise some awareness.
And then who enforces it, right?
Yeah.
It's just, do we, in the time where we're trying to have kinder, gentler police officers with good relationships?
I think it's a little less enforcement, and it's a little bit about, there's a disruptive technology that's causing a problem, so they've got, you know, we've had pedestrians and we've had regular cyclists forever, sort of in tension with cars, and now we've got this thing in the middle that's faster, that we, you know, need to develop some norms around, and there aren't any, so it's the public education piece.
A lot of those things are pretty large too, and they could great get
Like I
tired
said,
and come
there's gonna be-
speeding along,
Yeah.
it's a little scary.
Yeah, well, at a certain point, it really is like a motorized vehicle, and it should have a tag, and it should be licensed and all of that. I mean, once they're a fat bike that can go 30 miles an hour, they're really like a little motorcycle. That's how they should get treated, but, yeah.
That's all. Marie?
Oh, the only thing I have to add is I did have cataract surgery and still need my glasses.
Can't hear that.
But, no, it's been fairly quiet over my way. This Caitlin Hamilton, that was on the video tonight, she spoke with me about some issues, I guess, about traffic and stuff. And then she got in touch with me. So I told her that our next neighborhood watch meeting, would definitely have her over, and, you know, we usually have 2 police officers there. And that's a time to kind of air your.
So you continue to meet regularly?
Yes, we're going to this month, and there's too many things got in the way, so.
The South Street's so narrow and the houses are so close to the road.
Yes, yeah.
Is there, is this the only neighborhood with a crime watch?
Active.
Active, I think.
Yeah. We've got, every meeting we've had more and more people. I mean, the last time it kind of outgrew my living room, but.
How about skunks? You got any skunks?
Oh, we have skunks. We've always had skunks. Yeah. So, usually we set up a trap and Andy goes out with a blanket, throws it over and takes it and brings it out to the wildlife refuge. Once again.
Don't tell them where you bring.
Speaking of Marie's ward, sorry, I'm just gonna ask a question. What's happened to our little piece of property down there? We were talking about putting a tiny little pocket park in.
Yeah.
Did we just mow it at this point?
Yeah, don't worry, it's still there.
No, I know it's still there, but has the discussions moved any? I mean, I didn't think it would be very much to put a little chain link fence around that. Make it a little mini dog park or something, I don't know.
You want me to answer that?
Sure.
I think it goes hand in hand with Colony Square. So I think it depends on what comes out of Colony Square and where the plumes are and whatnot.
Maybe
I
Colony
think-
Square could become a mega park, right? And
But there's some aspects that are being researched, I guess,
Okay.
for now.
Yeah. But other than that, that's pretty much all I've got for tonight.
Thank you, Marie. Noel?
I do have a complaint. Ladies in the Four Winds complain about the traffic, how fast they're going. And I observed it too, coming off Calvary Street. You see a person coming, he's not doing 25, he's probably doing 30, 40 miles an hour. So if anything can be done about that.
So Oak and LaSalle have been mentioned.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It is everywhere, but can we, I don't know if the radar speed is out and about, but we should probably try to utilize that more.
yeah.
So, we're Newman not too long ago.
Yeah.
So,
And we got one compliment, I was at the railroad station, and some people were from Northern Virginia, and they were very impressed with the city. And I told them to come again and visit advertise your city for you every day.
Hours and
Yeah, well, yours too, but I'll let you have it for a little while.
If you drive by Newell's house and his car is not in the driveway, go to the railroad station.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyone else have any last comment before we?
When I was sick, they called the house.
Motion to approve warrant 12/10/31. Second.
A motion second to approve warrants?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion to approve minutes 10/10/22. Second.
Motion from Tim, seconded by Mike to approve minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, minutes approved.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
If we provided a track, sorry, are we done?
Well, what was the adjournment time? What was that?
We had voted on it, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
For what time was it?
8:55.
Yep. 54.
For what time was it, the scheduled?
8:50.
56.
8:50?
Yeah.
8:50.
All